A built-in function for a recent IoT protocol is allowing for amplification attacks.
Manny, I understand there's a new protocol that's being used in amplification attacks and DDoS.
Yeah, so CoAP, or Constrained Application Protocol, is basically a protocol that is being used mostly for machine-to-machine. It's mostly being used in the IoT space because it's extremely lightweight. So the protocol itself actually was formally approved back in 2014. So it's not an old protocol, it's a fairly new protocol. And I guess, like everything else, eventually the bad actors figure out that it's there and that there's some way to take advantage of it. So from this story's perspective, we're seeing obviously an amplification attack.
In this case, it seems like you've got a target population that will amplify your traffic for you to a certain degree. Nothing spectacular, but nothing to sneeze at either.
In essence, it's an amplification factor of 34, which is actually, it's a lot, but it's kind of mid-range.
Yeah,
it's actually mid-range,
way worse.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not bad. So the stats that they gave you is basically you're getting a 720 byte response for a 21 byte request.
Okay.
So again, it's not on the huge side. It's somewhere in the middle. So, but it's enough for it to be useful from an amplification attack perspective. So what they end up doing with this is there's basically a request, a GET request for a URI of /well-known/core. And when you make that GET request, what you get back is the device basically giving you its capabilities.
Oh, yeah. So it's like the directory of possible things you can do with the
Exactly.
device, and that can be a huge list.
Exactly.
The other thing that I thought was interesting was that the protocol itself did have some nice security capabilities built into it.
So there is a piece of this that they talk about in security, which they say uses a default DTLS parameter of an equivalent 3072-bit RSA key. Oh. So they've taken into consideration the security aspect of it for the communication that's actually happening between these devices. The problem is that, sure, you can shore that up. The problem is that it's still being abused from an amplification perspective, which doesn't take into consideration that you've got your actual traffic being encrypted.
That's interesting. It's kind of like the problem that we've seen with DNSSEC, where DNSSEC responses are huge.
Right.
And if you want secure DNS, then yeah, it's a good way to go. But if you want huge reflection and amplification, that's also a good way to go.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So even with all the security controls in place, you still have to worry about the opportunity for the protocol to be abused with this amplification attack. Most of the scanning so far, most of this protocol is being used in China on mobile devices. So right now, the protocol is being mostly used there. But so a lot of the scanning is also sort of bleeding over into Brazil, Morocco, South Korea, and the US is somewhere in the top 5 on that list. So it's not that we are completely oblivious to this. We are seeing some of this scanning actually happening here closer to home. But most of it, I'm talking about like 90-something% of the scanning that they were seeing here was actually in China.
Wow.
Yeah. The one thing that they also mentioned with this protocol, and probably any protocol that you talk about on IoT devices, is also its nature of, today I run that scan and I can give you, in essence, the list of IP addresses that this thing is, that I'm finding all the scanning on. And a week from now, if I run that scan again, the IP address range is completely shifted. So because these devices are so up, down, they're IoT devices, the devices move around. So from an attacker perspective, It's a little more difficult to use this as your amplification attack method
Yeah.
because every single time you got to go out
And scan first, then attack.
Right, exactly.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point. So hopefully we won't see it up on Craigslist that quickly.
Right.
And also 36, for somebody who's worked around DDoS for a while, it's not bad, but it's not memcache. That one was, I think that was like 500 to 1 or something like that. It was really, really scary. And that kind of came and went. So maybe this one will also come and go kind of quickly.
Yeah.
In order to make any use of this situation and get this bonus for your amplified DDoS attacks, you have to always be scanning and updating your list of amplifiers. So hopefully that'll make it more difficult for an attacker to use effectively in a DDoS attack.